Hello Anmol, how are you?
Hey, Romania, I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good too. I guess most of the people know you from LinkedIn, but can you introduce yourself a little bit?
So, hi everyone. I'm SG2 at Uber. Right now working in Uber Eats. I'm a full stack developer there. I have a good community over LinkedIn, and I post some front end stuff over there and some ad hoc stuff. So related to software engineering.
Great Anmol. So this will be like a ReactJS machine coding round interview, like a mock interview, of course. So let's get started. You can share your screen. Okay, so your question is that in VS Code we have like a folder structure, right? Where there are different folders and files. So on the code sandbox also we can see that public is a folder, and when we go inside it, we have different files. So how to create that structure with the help of JSON? Like you can create a dummy JSON data, and we have to create like a folder structure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically, like inside the folder, you could have multiple files, or like when you click like the folder, then it should expand.
Yes,
Similar to
there
that.
can be multiple files inside folder, and folders can also be there.
So if I'll
Mhm.
take config and let's say I'll keep it as a folder only,
Okay.
as an array of items, and in every item, like I could have an ID. Let's say I could have like if it's a folder or not, uh,
Okay.
and if it's having some children, because if it's a folder, then it would be having some of the children. So here, let's say
Okay.
this folder would be true. And then children in that case would be, I'll expect the JSON would be in the correct format always. It won't be if it's not a folder, it's a file, then it's also having the children. So,
Okay.
so
So
it's,
if the is folder is true, then only we would have child. You are saying that, right? Mm-hmm.
so for the time being, I have created this config. This we could use inside our app folder.
Okay.
So, so what I'm planning to do right now is ki
Mm-hmm.
I have one state only, like for setting up the config. So let's say I'll use that
Okay.
use state to set my data to with this config initially, and then in the like while I'm making some of the changes in the data, let's say I'm expanding the folder, or I'm collapsing the folder, I'll update this data accordingly. So what I meant to say is, let's say I click on this particular ID, then I'll append something like is expanded or something of that sort, and making it as true. And if it's not, if I'm collapsing it, then I'll make it as false. Initially everything would be collapsed. So uh, on the operations, we could change this state.
Okay.
So yeah, so let's say I'll name it as a tree, and I'm passing this data.
Yeah.
So one more thing I'll need to do is ki, since I'm passing this data down, so this would be the global state. One state I also have to maintain. So basically I'll be doing some DFS kind of thing. So DFS I'll need to do, because I'll need to traverse everything, like firstly this, then its children, then its children. So it would be a recursive component. So for that, I'll also need one more prop, which would be similar to this data, but it would be keep on changing for every particular tree. So in the start, your uh, data would be like this, then recursively you will send the data, then it would be like this. So I'll also need to pass this as a, let's say, traversing data, which would be a copy of
Mm-hmm.
initially it would be a copy of the state, but later like we will change it inside the function,
Okay.
and also keep passing that set data.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And since we require the margin left, and so in the VS Code, like the elements shift, like whenever you are going from, whenever you are doing the nested hierarchy. So initially the padding, let's say, or padding margin would be zero, but later, like when I'll be traversing, I'll increase that padding. So this is the tree component which I'm thinking as of now. Later, we could add more params or more props to it. So
Okay. Mm-hmm.
this is our tree, and so data.
Why we are passing padding as a prop here?
Because it will keep on changing. Like for the nested ones, initially for initial level it would be zero. For its nested one, it would be let's say 10. Then its nested would be 20. So we'll need to pass it accordingly. It's a recursive component, so we'll be keep on doing that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So initially, like the traversing data would be an array of items.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's pointing to config, so what I'll do is uh, let's name it as node.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be so if node is folder, then what I'll need to do is
Mm-hmm.
I'll I'll create a folder component, and I'll also give it some name, right? Name, let's say root. Uh, what the name would be index.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it's a folder, then I would be passing the name as node dot name ID ID, and padding would be padding, and later we'll do that collapse thing and all those things.
Hmm.
If
Right.
it's not a folder, if it's not a folder, then I'll do it for a file. So that's fine. I and here like I'll also I guess instead of doing this, I could. So instead of doing so here I'll need to traverse the rest of the tree also. So
Mm-hmm.
in that tree I'll need to pass it. So traversing data will now change. It would be node.children,
Mm-hmm.
and set data would also remain the same, and the padding would also increase.
Right.
This would be initial, and so I'll also need some icons for the folder and file that I'll do it. uh, name, ID, padding. So for that, I'll need to visit. I'll need to find the folders. Uh,
Mhm.
so similarly, I'll do it for the file also. Just I need some.
Icons.
Oh, yeah. Um, but it should start printing by now. I'll see what's happening.
Mhm.
Okay. Printing in the between, but I think I'll get rid of this. So it's why it's printing. Okay. So it's printing the structure like root, and it's doing the indexing. It's doing the you say padding and margin like for the hierarchy once correctly. But I'll need to add some folders. So for that, I'll need to search folders. Correct.
Use
I'll
direct icons also if you.
folders. Let's take this one.
Mhm.
I guess I'll need to install that also. React.
Yeah, icons. Yeah.
So if it's folder should be at the end, should be at the end. Then it's taking.
I think the CSS part. Mhm.
I'll add the margin right also for.
Mhm.
Similarly, I'll do it for the file also.
Mhm.
Files and folders. For making it better, I could add more. Let's say add margin.
Okay. Can you actually explain this tree part and the recursion call properly? How actually it's printing in this way?
So basically, like our config is an array of items.
Mm-hmm.
So every item is having like is folder and the name of the folder and name of the folder or the file. And if it's having the children would be there in case of the if it's a folder only.
Hmm.
So for so data is our original data, like what the config is. We
Mm.
are just passing it because later we'll need to expand and collapse. So for that, we'll need to make changes to our original state. And traversing data is just a supporting prop, because you'll need to traverse this tree recursively so as to print everything. So once I am printing this component, so I am traversing data using map. So it would be an array of items. So first I'll check if it's a folder. So
Mm.
let's say we'll start from here. So it's a folder, right?
Right.
So what it will do is it will print the root. It will print the root folder, and then it will again call this component recursively, passing your children as a prop. So this would be passed as a prop,
Hmm.
then it will print this particular tree, and also like it will for adding this padding. So as you could see, like the nested ones are shifted by
Mm.
10 margin, so for that I am increasing the padding. Similarly, I'll need to do this. So
Mm.
now if it's not a folder, if it's a file, then I'm just printing the file, because a file won't have the nested children's.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This is what I am doing for demonstrating it better. I think I could add more
Mm.
files and folders, I guess. Uh, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Just give- And okay, we haven't added the margin to this file also. We'll add that. So, and if I will something to this package.json also. Your files, folders, everything is coming properly.
Oh,
So, I guess like the first part is done, but now the second is like we'll need to expand and collapse.
right.
So one way would have been that I would have maintained a state for like the expanded and collapsed IDs.
Mm-hmm.
But like later, if you would have asked me to add like some more folders and files, then
Mm.
it would have become more complex to maintain that particular state. So instead of doing that, I'll modify my original config or original React state only, which I'm passing it. So data which I'm passing. So I'll modify that only, like if I'm interested in collapsing or expanding.
Okay.
And by default, like we'll assume that everything is collapsed. And later, like if it's later when you click it, we'll expand it and we'll name it as is expanded as a true, and we'll show it.
Okay.
So
So on the current config only, you are adding one more key that is expanded onto it, right? Okay.
not the config exactly like in the data which we are passing in the state.
Right. Okay.
So I'll need to pass this data in the folder also. So let's say you're clicking a folder file, so you can't click, right?
Yeah.
Only the things you could do it with the I guess. So these are being passed, and let's say click I should attach on the
I think you're putting inside styles.
yeah, sorry.
Mhm.
If we'll click it, then let's say expand, collapse, then I'll pass my data and I'll pass my ID. So also like I'll need to show the tree if like the node is expanded, right? So if node is expanded, So on this basis only, I'll need to show this tree.
Mm.
Otherwise, I won't need to show it. So initially, like everything is collapsed.
Mm.
So okay, I'll write this function. So this is your data, this is your ID, and set data. I'll also pass. So this would also be a recursive function, but so um, so for hmm, so for each one node, what I'll need to do is, so basically like it won't be a mutated, so I can't mutate a state, right? So what I'll need to do is I'll create a clone node, and then I'll have to make the changes to the node. So what I'm trying to say is, like, let's say if the node ID is equal to ID, then what I'll need to do is first of all I'll create a clone node, should be this node, and if node ID is equal to this ID, then what I'll do it and I'll children nodes, what I'll do is so if my node dot ID is equal to ID, then it means I'll need to expand or collapse this clone node. So node clone node dot is expanded would be equal to also items or children. Yeah, it's children.
Mhm.
If it's not a clone, if it's a node which is not matching my ID, then I'll need to, it might be a probability key. It's having the expanded or collapsed node in its hierarchy. So I'll need to traverse that hierarchy of that particular node. So
Mhm.
in that scenario, also like I don't need to do anything. I just return the clone node, and data.map I'll use for each node. So in this way, like if my data dot length is equal to what you say 0, then in that case I'll return just the data handle click. If I'm passing my data and set data, then I'm expand collapsing it. Clone node is expanded is expanded.
Mhm.
So this we are able to do. Also, like we will need some this expansion and collapses we are able to achieve. So I like quickly explain what I'm trying to do is, so this is handle. So whenever I'm clicking a node, I have attached an event listener, or what do you call, like
Mhm.
And so when I'm clicking, so this is being executed. So what I'm trying to create the new config, which is going, how it's going to look like. So let's say if I click over here, then what it would look like is ki your root would having a new property is expanded. So it will tell you ki you'll need to expand this particular tree. So for achieving that, what I'm doing is I'm traversing over the complete data which I'm passing. So initially, like this is our original, so this will be passed. Then what it will check if the node which I am at current now, if it's having the ID similar to what I have clicked. So I have clicked this one. So if it's equal to one, then I am expanding. So what was my previous state for that particular node? It's clone. So clone node, I am doing it because we can't mutate a state. So I am creating a copy of that particular node. And also like I am expanding also I am traversing this children of it, because it might be a scenario ki, if initially you have clicked this route. So
Hmm.
in that particular scenario, you'll need to traverse the complete tree. So in that case, you will not do any operation on the parent node. You will just traverse all the children node and then check ki if it need to be expanded or collapsed.
Okay, like
So
in case of folder inside folder also, you are just traversing down, not from the top again, right?
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So in this way, like we are able to achieve like this expansion and collapse.
Yes, yes, Anmol. This is working perfectly fine. You can stop sharing your screen. Yeah, so it was really nice interacting with you, Anmol. Would you like to share your journey of how you cracked Uber, and how can the audience do that? Some tips and tricks to crack the product-based companies, basically.
What I believe is key for any of the product-based companies, like most of the rounds are related to DSA only. So
Mm.
basically, like I had 5 rounds for Uber. So two were DSA based, and one was low-level design, like a machine coding round, and one was high-level design. So DSA is one of the primary thing you need to focus upon. And if you are in a college, then to you have a plethora of time you could spend improving on your DSA skills. And it's like you have done DSA once, so you would be able to revise it in a very short span of time. It stucks into your brain and it makes you a good programmer, I guess. You'll be able to think better on the time complexity, like whether you should be using a set instead of an array. So those are the things. First is DSA is very important. So I interviewed for SG2 roles. So for SG2 role, they have this machine coding and system design round. So for that also you'll need some practice in solving on. So the best way out is what I think is key. You just go to Lead Code or GFG and read like the previous interview experiences and try solving those particular problems, and
Okay.
be very good hands-on with JavaScript, because like the internal of JavaScript, like how event loop works, execution context, and all those things which we have over there.
Mhm.
And apart from it, for high-level design, I referred one course from educative.io. You could refer, a lot of free videos are there on YouTube as well. So, and you'll also need to focus more on front end related stuff also if you are interviewing for the front end interview rounds. So all those things like using of um, what do you call it, in using of intersection observer APIs, and using getting to know about like the pagination, throttling, debouncing, and telling like what you would do in this particular scenarios. So for that you will need to do some hands-on practice on like various famous system design problems from the front end side also. So
Mhm.
those are the things. And for the last round would be a managerial round or a behavioral round. So in most of this, like you'll need to answer on the basis of your past experiences using the star pattern. So if you could read about it, just make your stories beforehand, because at that particular scenario, you won't be able, in that pressure, you won't be able to make out these stories on your own. So just practice all those things. This was about how I prepared.
Great. So many of the people are coming into front end development just because there are less DSA rounds, and they think ki in front end DSA is not that important in particularly for the interview part. So what do you think that should this be the reason of coming into front end just because DSA is not that valuable in here?
I think it's a myth only. So I interviewed with a lot of companies and I was interviewing with Uber also.
Mhm.
So in Microsoft also, like, I had the DSA round, and the DSA round was of a decently difficulty. It wasn't very easy also. So I don't know, like, if I think like every good product company is asking DSA, whether it's front end or the whether you are interviewing for the front end role or a generic SD role. And always I think like it's a good skill to have. So we solved that particular problem. If you won't know about DFS and all those recursion, so how you would be able to code it out? And this kind of problem, like similar to that, I also got in my previous firm in a project. So at that time you'll struggle. So I think like that's the reason they generally ask DSA. It's not ki DSA is not being asked for Uber also, like they ask very hard DSA problems. And for I don't think so ki the companies are differentiating, like if you are interviewing for the front end role then you won't be asked DSA. It
Yeah.
might be ki some startups are not asking DSA, but the good product based companies do generally ask DSA.
Right. So this should not be the reason of coming into front end, right? Because after cracking Mintra, many people are like, are they asking DSA? Are they not asking DSA? So I would say we have to prepare DSA because it's a software engineering profile, right?
Even for you also, like they would have asked DSA, right?
There
In
were two
Myntra round.
rounds of DSA in Mintra as well. So yeah. But yeah, there was like for from the backend developers and from the front end developer, there were a different set of questions. But it was again 2-3 DSA rounds, so you have to prepare well for that.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Anmol. It was really nice interacting with you. Yeah. That's-
Rohan, all the best for your channel and
Mhm.
hope you get a lot of subscribers and views.
Thank you.